In this video, I'm going to be showing you a foundational spiritual truth revealed through an ancient Mayan monument. This is a truth that actually reveals the very essence of our place here on earth under heaven. This can be backed up biblically and both in the inspired sacred text and other sacred texts that may not necessarily be inspired. But the interesting thing is this foundational truth to be revealed in this video, to be explained in this video, mainstream Christianity generally is not aware of. Now, what we have here is a monument commemorating an old Mayan earthly ruler. And the amazing thing about what is depicted in this monument is we see the spiritual hierarchy that actually still persists even today. Now, what the Metropolitan Museum of Art tells us about this monument, you can view on your screen, and you're welcome to pause the video and read what they tell us. But what we're interested in is just a little bit of information which revolves around Mayan theology, most of which the world just thinks, oh, those crazy, stupid ancients. But in truth, it reveals a lot of spiritual truth, especially if you're biblically minded. Now, as what's being shown on your screen, we see this monument is actually divided into 3 sections. And we will explore that and compare it to what we know as Christians. So the first section of this monument, which you are viewing on your screen, is of the earthly Mayan ruler. Now, again, you could rewind and pause the video and read what the Metropolitan Museum of Art tells us about him, but that's not exactly relevant. What is shown here, there's a lot. It's very easy to get confused. A lot of gargle all over the place. That's just the Mayan culture. But what you see on your screen is outlined of what's important, and that is your earthly ruler sitting on his throne. And in layman's terms, this could be compared to today's presidents or kings, whatever that we have on the earth today. Now, it's here where it gets interesting. It's the section 2, what's above this earthly ruler, from what the Metropolitan Museum of Art tells us, is where we can begin to make our biblical applications and begin to discern truth that the world does not want us to know, or that is just hidden from the general public. Now, as you've been able to read, what this excerpt says is that extending up above this king is the great serpent of the other world. Now, already biblical bells should be ringing, but let's explore what that really means. Now, we are all familiar with the story of Adam and Eve in the book of Genesis, but what many don't understand is where the serpent of the Bible comes from. This personally was a question I've been asking myself and have been searching for throughout my studies. And ironically, only recently I found in the first book of Adam and Eve some answers. And I'm not just blindly believing any text I read. I was able to verify what I read in the first book of Adam and Eve through my own personal experiences and discernment, which becomes a little bit of a rabbit hole, and it's a little bit too much to get into now. But ironically, what we read of from the Metropolitan Museum of Art in this excerpt about the serpent absolutely runs parallel to what we read about in the first book of Adam and Eve, chapter 62. And this speaks of how the serpent, Satan, actually comes from another world. Now, in our Bibles, we're not told where the serpent comes from. So, but I can tell you from my personal experiences and those who might have experience in persecution, the enemy has access to other dimensions. And I know firsthand, this is their little secret they don't want you to know. They have their own dimension, which is like paradise. And throughout my studies and my discernment throughout the years researching Flat Earth, even my experiences with the mafia and all that stuff, when my story first started, I will say, I was completely freaked out when I first started getting stalked. The television, they would send message through the television interdimensionally. For example, we would be watching The Simpsons on TV. I was hiding out in my friend's house, and in between the show and the commercial for about 2 seconds, a mafia guy would show up on the screen for like 5 seconds saying, "I see you," or smashing his hands together saying it's not okay, perfectly running parallel to what I was thinking at that exact moment. And that completely freaked me out. But I understand now is they have access to another dimension, and that dimension bleeds into this dimension through electricity and other energies likewise. Like the Bible says, Satan is the prince of the air. Now, this was actually the reason why I went to the Metropolitan Museum of Art today, because I wanted to look into the Mayan culture from what I can find in my testimony, because the Mayan calendar is a big part of my testimony, and I don't have all the answers. But I will say, just to make my point, what I read just in these few verses in the first book of Adam and Eve absolutely verifies my experiences with aliens and the Mayan calendar and the CIA and all that kind of stuff that I went through. I will try to leave links in the description box below to try to catch up on this stuff. But my testimony does verify Satan's other dimension. My testimony does verify the Mayan calendar and the Mayan culture with spiritual truth. And the end of the Mayan calendar was actually the descending of Satan. But I'm just going on this little rant to just say that this is my discernment, that I know there is truth here. So I know I went on a little rant, but continuing in this study, I hope I was able to establish at least the validity of what is told to us about the serpent, that he comes from another world, which in fact is interdimensional. Now, just to recap our study, remember there are 3 sections to this monument. First, the earthly ruler, and then the serpent of the sky from another world above that ruler, and now third, let's see what we could learn about this third and final dimension of this monument. Now, excuse me if I butcher the pronunciations here, but the Met tells us the third dimension of this monument contains a anthropomorphized bird that represents the principal deity Itzamna. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, just a little bit of research on what the Mayan deity of Itzamna is, we can unlock actual spiritual and biblical truth. So let's see what a quick Google search on this Mayan supreme deity Itzamna shows up. Let's see what shows up. Here we go on your screen. Right off the bat, Itzamna was one of the most important gods of Mayan mythology, the ruler of the heavens of the day and night. He was often shown in Mayan art as a peasant, a toothless old man with a large nose. He was also identified as the son of the creator. And I'm not even going to bother pronouncing that name, but already bells should be ringing Christ, the humility of the Son of God. And as we continue to read this information, I will leave the link in the description box below, but it doesn't take long to see that this deity is referring to the sovereign Christ, the Son of God, the Elohim Godhead, as exactly told in our Bibles. You know, minus the the Mayan myths and the mishaps and corruption of stories throughout the ages, but it's very clear to see the Elohim Godhead as told in our Bibles as the Son of God being the author of creation. Now, to me, reading this information on this Mayan deity opens rabbit holes of truth that I can confirm to my personal testimony, but I'm not exactly prepared to show it, and I don't really want to go off track, but there's amazing stuff here. There's amazing stuff here, and I just want to leave it at that. So, let's take a look at this monument as a whole and see if it fits our biblical model. Let's see if it fits our biblical worldview, and let's see what we could learn from that. So here we have your earthly ruler on the throne. Right above it is the serpent from another world. And right above that is the other deity, which in truth is Christ. So basically what this monument is telling us is that the rulers and princes of this world are under the thumb of Satan, who is from another world, who is from another dimension. And that's exactly what the Bible tells us. The Bible tells us that Satan is the prince of this world. And we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, we wrestle against powers and principalities, wickedness in high places. This is exactly confirmed. And who and what is above all of that is Christ. So, it's an amazing spiritual truth in this ancient Mayan monument. I pray you guys receive this. I pray this is a blessing to you guys. Please see the stuff in the description box below. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you.